This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
It's time to make sports betting in Minnesota legal. It's a win-win-win. A win for consumers, a win for youth sports, a win for charities. Consumers would have more protection against offshore unregulated websites. Revenue would stay in Minnesota and be invested in youth sports and provide a tax cut for charities. Legalizing sports betting has bipartisan support, as well as support from Minnesota's tribes and horse tracks. Let your legislators know the time for waiting is over, and join 39 other states in protecting consumers, ensuring age verification, and benefiting Minnesota. Visit sportsbettingalliance.org to learn more, prepared and paid for by the Sports Betting Alliance.
Hey runners! You know running can be tough, but shopping for gear shouldn't be. That's why you should make your shopping easy with Running Warehouse. They've got all the best brands, styles, and colors all in one place. No matter where you're heading or how many miles you're about to cover, you know they've got the perfect gear waiting for you. And if you're not sure what you need, their in-house experts are there to help. So if you're looking to upgrade your running game, you should definitely check out Running Warehouse. With free shipping and free returns, you can shop with confidence. Visit runningwarehouse.com today.
Wasabi Technologies is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from those old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams around the world. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, Wasabi is driving innovation in data storage, all for up to 80% less than those other guys. Try them out for free at wasabi.com.
This is the man in seat 11A, leader fan radio network.
Are you nuts?
And KFAN, that's KFAN.com. 2 minutes, 50 seconds past the hour, 3 o'clock. Central Daylight Saving Time, welcome back. Friday edition, bumper-to-bumper show. Another very gloomy weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Did I see a sleet warning for tonight? It's not going to get that cold, is it?
I don't see any sleet.
Okay.
But I rule nothing out when it comes to Minnesota weather.
Yeah. I mean, you realize we're halfway through June. We're down to 2 months.
Father's Day Sunday. Yeah.
It's 2 months. July, August, and that's it.
You know who to blame?
Who?
The Wolves.
Yeah, that's probably true.
They take our attention away.
Yeah.
We're all inside for the month of May.
You might be right.
Watching the playoff games, and then they lose in the Western Conference Finals, and all of a sudden it's June.
How does an individual, any individual, survive a Boeing 787 Dreamliner crash? The way the passenger seated in 11A, emergency exit row, front of the economy cabin, do so. That's the Air India story. Air India Flight 171. I mean, it was seconds after takeoff, right, that plane went down. There were 242 aboard that plane, I think including the crew. And there is, as far as I know, one survivor. Now, I think aviation experts will say, the next flight, make sure you get seat 11A. Different planes are configured differently. Plus, there's I assume, we'll hear, I'm hoping from some aviation experts, including some pilots who listen to this show, that a lot of these stories, well, there aren't that many of them, but when they do take place, it has more to do. Even in crashes where there are more survivors, it has more to do with where the impact was. It's luck. It's serendipity. There's no, there's not like, no, here's the seat
strategy
you should try to get.
Right.
Here's the strategy you should try to deploy. But it's one of those stories that I think everybody gravitates towards for all the obvious reasons, right?
I feel like it's not getting enough attention.
I agree with you.
And it's getting attention.
There's a few other things going on right now.
Just a few.
That might have something to do with it. But yeah. The crash took place. The plane ended up smashing into a residential building. It was a huge explosion, if you saw it. And as we said, it's one of those crashes where you say, well, there's no way that anybody could possibly survive. And I don't know if we've necessarily heard, in this case, an explanation as to how this took place. Here's the quote from him. This is from, well, I'm not going to get the first name very good, so I'll stick with the last name, Ramesh. I don't know how I survived. That's probably as much as you'd expect anybody to say. He's on I think what he apparently remembers is he felt like the plane got stuck in midair. Green and white lights illuminate the cabin. And the next thing Ramesh remembers apparently is he's just on the ground. And he made his way outside the plane. Started looking for help, right? He's, I think, still in a hospital bed.
Yep. If
I'm not mistaken. The plane was supposed to be going from the Indian city of Ahmedabad to London. And by the way, among the fatalities, Ramesh's brother, AJ.
Right.
Also, 24 individuals who are on the ground, who are not on the plane, including students in a medical college dormitory. The plane struck. He is in, I believe, his late 30s. And Wall Street Journal had an interesting piece noting that Ramesh joins a short list of known sole survivors of major plane crashes. Some of the roughly 14 others have reported intense survivor's guilt, including deep depression after cheating death seemingly at random. Over the past 8 decades, they write, of commercial travel, there have been fewer than 20 crashes where planes carrying 80 or more occupants left a sole survivor or two. I didn't remember this story. In January, 2 flight attendants survived a Jeju Air plane crash in South Korea that killed 179 persons. Did you remember that one? I don't remember that.
I do not, no.
The attendants were seated in the rear of the plane. It was a Boeing 737, slammed into an embankment and burst into flames. Investigators assessing the survivability of a plane crash focus on 5 factors. Do you know what they are?
I don't.
Integrity of the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Effectiveness of safety restraints. G-forces experienced by passengers and crew. The environment inside the aircraft, and post-crash factors such as fire or smoke. Lots of reasons someone may survive in what appears to be a totally unsurvivable situation. The president of the International Society of Air Safety Investigators says. Her name is Barbara Dunn. Depending on how the aircraft lands and where a passenger is seated, it has an impact. If you have your seatbelt tightened, it limits the amount of flailing the body goes through. It also depends on whether a passenger is able to assume a brace position. Dunn says, really, the biggest factor is how the aircraft touches down. Passengers up front in a nose-first crash bear the brunt of the impact. But there's other stuff. A lot of people think it's safer in the back than in the front. Not necessarily. How quick the fire takes over and how quick you can get to an exit. All those things matter as well. It's stunning, again, and I don't really like watching the video that we have. I mean, it's pretty vivid video of the takeoff, right? I don't know if it was like one of those stationary cameras at the airport. Have you seen it? Have you seen the crash, or have you tried not to?
No, yeah, I've just read the stories, and I saw one of the videos of him kind of walking away from the aircraft,
yes.
But I haven't watched the crash itself or anything else.
It's one of those where it is you. There are some where you look at, because of the way the plane goes down, you can say, "Oh, I kind of understand why 30 people were able to survive that." But the explosion in this case, obviously lots of fuel on a plane that's just taken off, right? It's full of fuel.
Yes. As full as it will ever be.
Seem like you're not going to have. You're really not going to have much of a chance. There's studies done on this stuff. NTSB examined commercial flights between 1983 and 2017. And their serious accidents were defined as having had a fire, at least one serious injury or fatality, and a substantially damaged or destroyed aircraft. 35 crashes met the criteria. And there was one, and again, I don't remember this, a 4-year-old girl. Yeah, actually, you know what? I think I do. 1987. I think this was a Northwest plane, if I'm not mistaken. A McDonnell Douglas DC-9 crashed shortly after takeoff in Detroit in 87. And one 4-year-old girl was the only survivor among 155 occupants. Now, that was 87, so 13. So that girl would now be 40-ish?
Right around there.
I'm assuming somebody tried to get a hold of her. It would be fascinating, would it not, to hear from that 4-year-old girl, now an adult, whether maybe she, are you too young at that age to deal with, survivor's guilt?
Yeah, it's right on the border of will you remember it or not,
but
probably.
I'm wondering what you, if anything, you think about at a time like this when you hear the Air India story. Yeah, it was Northwest Airlines Flight 255. Wreckage strewn over a 3,000-foot crash path. All of the passenger seats were detached and scattered along the way. The surviving child, who had been traveling with her parents and brother, was found in the wreckage beneath one of the overpasses. Her seat number? 11A.
No.
I had to say it.
Yeah.
8F. 8F in her case. So, again, these stories are so crushing. And I think part of the reason, as you say, maybe it shouldn't be getting more attention than it is, that people get fascinated by it, is just, so you're looking for some kind of hope out of that misery, that level of tragedy, right? And that's what this story, I think, with this individual represents, right? There was a horribly heartbreaking photo that's been making the rounds of right before the flight starting, a family is traveling together. It appears the mother and father are on the right side of the plane, and there's at least 2 or 3 kids. They're on the left side of the plane, and it's a selfie that either the mom or dad has taken.
That we
all
all
them
take.
Smiling.
Yep.
They're all smiling, excited about their trip. In this case, I think to London. It's just, oh my God. It's just...
Reminds me of the helicopter that went down in New York a month or two ago.
Right.
A family of 4 just out there on the helipad.
From Spain, yeah.
Getting ready to go on the helicopter, and sadly, they didn't make it either.
We're going to come back with the guest lineup. It's a good, solid, distinguished one. We've got guests at 3:30, 4:30, and 5:30. Maybe also an update regarding the Kevin Durant sweepstakes and your Minnesota Timberwolves.
It's time to make sports betting in Minnesota legal. It's a win-win-win. A win for consumers, a win for youth sports, a win for charities. Consumers would have more protection against offshore unregulated websites. Revenue would stay in Minnesota and be invested in youth sports and provide a tax cut for charities. Legalizing sports betting has bipartisan support, as well as support from Minnesota's tribes and horse tracks. Let your legislators know the time for waiting is over, and join 39 other states in protecting consumers, ensuring age verification, and benefiting Minnesota. Visit sportsbettingalliance.org to learn more. Prepared and paid for by the Sports Betting Alliance.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
You guys know I'm always up for a good MVP story, and one of the best is the story of Wasabi Technologies. Wasabi is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the world's hottest cloud storage company, becoming the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams and leagues around the world, and here's why. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, data deletion, and ransomware, Wasabi's taken the lead in driving innovation in data storage, eliminating overhead where it matters to deliver you results you can count on and won't break the bank. In fact, Wasabi is up to 80% less than those other guys and doesn't charge a cent for businesses to access their own data. Wasabi, another championship story. Check them out for free at wasabi.com.
Stay tuned. Semi-grant Eric in Circle Pines Point. September, he writes, is the most beautiful month of the year. What do you mean 2 months left? He can be right. It's not always true. Most years, it's my favorite month. Little bit of just a hint of the cool air to come, but still not cold, right?
Yeah.
That's what you hope.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work that way, though, does it?
No, it's a nice month, but it also, summer's over.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, if you've got a family or kids, or,
Correct.
you know, for us, that's a heavy work month. You know, it's basically 6 months until football's over.
Also true.
4.5 to 5 for Vikings football, 6 for the rest of the National Football League. So September's a little bit different than July and August.
Let me remind folks that the Friday regulars, Lavelle E. Neal III, is back at 5:30 this evening.
From Houston, I believe.
Oh, is that right?
It's the yearly Brother Larry birthday trip.
Ah, okay.
And I believe he might be in the air right now, as a matter of fact.
Is the idea they're gonna go to a Twins game, among other things?
That's the idea. That's what they do.
Interesting.
And it's about the year anniversary of Lavelle losing his wallet after he went through TSA.
Remember that?
I do. Had to miss his flight, had to go through security footage to try to find it.
Oh, by the way, if you can find the follow-up sounder, you can use it now. We had gotten into the subject the other day of what if you show up at the airport and you don't have your real ID and you don't have your Costco ID. And apparently, I was told by a couple of texters, I never got back to it, because I said, well, are you just out of luck? I assume you're just out of luck, and you'd hope there was more to it. Well, apparently there is a procedure that can potentially help you get on that flight, get through security, but it is laborious and challenging, and if you have not budgeted in enough extra time, you might well be without the ability to get on the flight. So I guess there is something. I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
Is what everybody says. I would discourage it.
Do it normally.
The miracle, just try to do it normally if you indeed can. Coming up at 3:30, my pal Rick Bozich announced officially today that he is hanging up, what do I say now? I was about to say typewriter, but that's kind of passé. He hasn't used a typewriter in a long time, but he has used a computer terminal from time to time. He's retiring after 50 years in the media sports writing business. 50.
The job is done. We can go home now.
Yeah. Now, he's going to join us at 3:30. We'll talk about that big decision. We'll talk about the highs and the lows. And we'll ask him yet again, among his regrets, is the biggest his decision to renounce his acceptance of Star Tribune sports column job back in 1986 after 2 days on the job. 2 days.
It's crazy. The butterfly effect of that decision.
It's remarkable if you think about it.
I do.
Very true. And we'll see if he's got any regrets, because once he returned to Louisville, He never left the market. He's literally been in that market the rest of his career. Now, we'll get into all that. We'll get into some sports stuff with him, some highs and some lows. Looking forward to our visit with my guy, Rick Bozich, at 3:30 as well. Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line is 64686. Is their Timberwolves team related to Kevin Durant? Well, apparently, your guy, Shams Charania, was on with Pat McAfee today. And this was the direct quote from Shams. I think a Kevin Durant trade could happen in the next few days.
Tweet that.
And he writes says that in the last 24 hours, the focus has been on the Rockets, the Heat, and you guessed it, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get them. That could be very brisk competition. But it means what we said going all the way back to the trade deadline. They're absolutely motivated to try to get him, if it is feasible to do so. And that tells me that now, in the end, if the Wolves don't get him, will it be because they didn't try hard enough, or will it be because ultimately the demands made by the Suns were not acceptable to Tim Connelly? Those are all fair points. But I think we have ample evidence that Tim Connelly is intrigued by Kevin Durant. I mean, the debate is on about his age and, well, what has he done lately? And I'm just telling you, most basketball people still view him as an offensive force. You have to have the right pieces around him. And what those pieces would be is one of the open questions, because you got to give up something for him, right? But this could happen fast, is what it sounds like. It makes it very intriguing.
Yes.
And it makes all the sense in the world that this was going to happen before the draft or on draft night, because the assumption is the Suns or any other teams, if it ends up being a 3 or 4 team deal, want draft choice capital. So you're going to want it on the front end of that. And so sometimes that means it could happen on draft night, but a lot of times it means before. And that was I think we said all along that I didn't think we were going to have to wait that long to get this resolved and move on to whatever the next step is for the Wolves, whether he's the guy or they move on to plan B, and there's somebody or a couple others that they're interested in as well.
Do you have Sunday sermons on Sunday?
No, I'm off this Father's Day off. Well, that could be a mistake.
You may have to be on call. What if it happens?
Well, yeah, I guess
what if it happens tomorrow night?
Why can't it happen on a weekday?
I mean, it could.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll keep it open.
Sham's also saying, let's not forget how great of a player Kevin Durant is. All 3 of these teams think they're going to contend for a championship with Kevin Durant. The other interesting thing he said later in that soundbite that you read from is it's not necessarily true that every team involved is automatically going to extend him. And he brought up the name Kawhi Leonard when he got traded to the Raptors. Everybody knew that deal, right?
Yes.
Kawhi's coming here for a year, and then he's going to hit the free agent market. And the Raptors knew it, won him a ship. And they got nothing for it other than the championship. But because that's always because everybody's asking, how can they afford Kevin Durant? First of all, the salaries will have to match up. But then a lot of people draw the line at, do you extend him and pay him $55, $60 million a year for 2 years? Might that be a deal breaker for any of the teams? And I don't know if I'd hate, Dan, a Kawhi Leonard type situation for Durant.
I don't. You'd have to consider it, yes.
Because part of the Cat trade, if you want to unwind all of it, was you want to stay out of the second apron, and you want to, it might be, and you want to have flexibility as often as you can and as long as you can. It might be a way to literally get out of the Cat money from 2 years ago, and even some of the Rudy money, if he had to go out in this deal, I don't know. And then you have the decks cleared a little bit as you're entering the next wave of the Anthony Edwards era.
I wouldn't rule out, though, the possibility that some other big money might be leaving here. I
agree.
I think that has to be factored in, too.
By definition, it would have to.
Well, it would have to. But I mean, even above and beyond that, I think, I don't know. There's a lot of There's some Rudy rumors out there. There's a lot of stuff that includes basically, all right, we're going to overnight go from being the strength of our team is defense to the strength of our team is going to be offense, and we're not going to be able to stop people the same way, but we might be able to outscore people more than ever. Is it a trade-off worth considering? I think, again, it depends on all the parameters. Which ball is the point guard for the Bulls? Is it LaMelo is Charlotte, right?
Yeah. You're thinking Lonzo?
Is it Lonzo Ball, who's been oft injured?
Yep.
But I've heard some rumors that the Wolves might be sniffing there, too, because, the danger with him is injury, just staying healthy. He's got a really good contract. I think he's making like $10 million a year. And could you view him as, if you're saying, long term, we fully expect that the kid, Dillingham's going to be our point guard of the future, but he ain't there yet. So we need another bridge who's better right now than maybe Conley is judged at this point. That kind of thing. That be thrown in the mix. And then who's the other guard? The Bulls have another guard who's younger, who kind of emerged this last season. I'm hearing there's a number of names being thrown out there. And again, most of it will just be idle speculation or what people want to believe. But I honestly think there's a chance this roster could look a lot different for next year. And that may seem irrational because you go, wait a minute, why are you overthinking it here? Do you throw out the baby with the bathwater? Well, if that's the only way you can get Durant and you're convinced that that's what you want to try to do, it might very well come to that. Very hard to say.
Pay attention this weekend. That's all we can say, right? Pay attention this weekend and the next week or so.
A couple people are asking if we have any big knockers on to talk about the escalating Iran-Israel conflict. We do not right now, but we will devote some attention to that very fast-moving story. I'll just say that, the short version for me on the basis of watching stuff and reading, I'm curious to get other people's opinions of it, is that this one feels different than what Israel did after October 7, and that now maybe Iran is so weakened that they can't really do anything about it. But my sense of this is, this is more an act of war, I think, than the previous escalation was. And that always scares me. That always worries me about where it goes, how we might get drawn in, other countries drawn in, etc. There's a lot of open questions. And whether in the end, by the way, on this one deep underground site, we've even actually, or Israel, has been able to make any progress on doing damage to that spot, because I've been led to believe that location, the U.S., with their technology and their bombs, would at some point have to get involved. So we'll save that a little bit for later. Kobe White, who's who I'm thinking of,
Average 20 points a game.
He's a nice player, but then you say, why would the Bulls want to move on him? Who knows with the Bulls? They're weird. When we come back, end of an era for our guy, Rick Bozich. All this means is he'll have more time to come on with us. Longtime sports writer, legend in Louisville, Kentucky. He's been doing it for literally 50 years. We'll talk to him about his decision to say enough's enough. I don't want to go in any more football locker rooms. And what might be coming up in his future as well. Ricky Bozich.
It's time to make sports betting in Minnesota legal. It's a win-win-win. A win for consumers, a win for youth sports, a win for charities. Consumers would have more protection against offshore unregulated websites. Revenue would stay in Minnesota and be invested in youth sports and provide a tax cut for charities. Legalizing sports betting has bipartisan support, as well as support from Minnesota's tribes and horse tracks. Let your legislators know the time for waiting is over, and join 39 other states in protecting consumers, ensuring age verification, and benefiting Minnesota. Visit SportsBettingAlliance.org to learn more. Prepared and paid for by the Sports Betting Alliance.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
You guys know I'm always up for a good MVP story, and one of the best is the story of Wasabi Technologies. Wasabi is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the world's hottest cloud storage company, becoming the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams and leagues around the world, and here's why. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, data deletion, and ransomware, Wasabi's taken the lead in driving innovation in data storage, eliminating overhead where it matters to deliver you results you can count on and won't break the bank. In fact, Wasabi is up to 80% less than those other guys and doesn't charge a cent for businesses to access their own data. Wasabi, another championship story. Check them out for free at wasabi.com.
Hey runners, Kate Max here. Running can be tough, but shopping for gear shouldn't be. That's why you should trust Running Warehouse. They have all the best brands, styles, and colors in one place. Whether you're hitting the trails or pounding the pavement, they've got the perfect gear for you. Plus, their in-house experts are ready to help. Upgrade your running game and shop with confidence with Running Warehouse. Shop now at runningwarehouse.com with free shipping and free returns.
A lot of football conversation coming up with Ben Gessling at 4:30. And at 5:30, Lavelle files a live report, we hope, from his road trip, Dateline Houston, Texas. My next guest has decided it was a hell of a run, but now it's over. After 50 years in the ink-stained wretch business, Rick Bozich says he's calling it at least on the official side, a career. He joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. For those who don't listen to the show much, Ricky, of course, has been on this program many, many times over the decades. We go all the way back to, well, we share Gary, Indiana, although we didn't know each other then, and then eventually ran into each other at Indiana University, and the rest is kind of history. So as we welcome you, by the way, officially, the date is July 1. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Why? Why now?
Why am I stepping down now while we're starting out with the easy question? I mean, you know, as you work in the TV and radio business, you know, you have contracts, and I'm fulfilling my last contract. I'm 72 years old. I've got a grandson who's going to be a freshman in high school this year.
That's crazy.
Who will be running cross country. I've got a granddaughter who's going to be a 7th grader who's in a lot of activities. I've got another grandson who is going to be 10, and he's got a Little League All-Star Game tournament coming up. So I can spend more time with them. You know, I want to go to spring training. I just got a new e-bike that I want to ride.
Nice.
I like spending time with my dog. I'm going to go on the first, you should come to this. The first Saturday in September in Indianapolis is Serb Fest. I've always wanted to go to Serb Fest. Right. I've never been able to go because I always have to go to a football game. And this year I can go and hang out with my sister. And not worry about, you know, things like that. So, I mean, it's a lot of deadlines. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of, and in today's world, it never ends. And I didn't mind doing it most of the time, but I'll give you an example. This week, I came home from work on Tuesday, I think it was, and I thought I was done and I was going to cut the grass. And then I was laying down to process something. I forgot what it might have been. It was the day Sly died. That's what day it was. And as you know, and you are, I was a big Sly and the Family Stone fan. And I was listening to Sly music, and all of a sudden I got this text that Pete Thamel's reporting that Louisville's hiring some coach off Kentucky staff, and you have to drop everything you're doing and, like, make phone calls and see what he's got, and what can you confirm, and how much can you write, and then you write what you have, and then you get more confirmation, you go back in the story and you update it and put it on social media. And, you know, I've done that. I've done plenty of it. And It was actually today I was thinking back to. I remember one time, you might not remember it, you and I were there, and I think in the summer. Weren't we there in the summer one year in Bloomington?
At least.
No, it wasn't in the summer. It was in the fall.
Okay.
We were walking somewhere. It was my senior year and your sophomore year. And we were just talking about how much better we were. We were talking about all these different writers at different papers. I'm not going to mention any names.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm better than we should get. We might have been in grad school.
That's possible.
We couldn't get jobs.
Right. Yeah.
It was like we're better than this guy at Chicago Today, and we're better than this guy at the Indianapolis Star. He's a hack. It's like that was like 20 minutes ago, and now
it's crazy, isn't it?
It's over. So
well, I
remember. I'm not going to mention any names. I think we went through the entire roster of the Indianapolis Star sports section. We were better than every one of those guys.
Well, I think we were, but it was easy, of course, to say at the time. But you're right. That's how we felt. Well, my memory, the one that I was coming up with today, that I was thinking, I don't know why I was triggered on this today. So we both go to grad school at the same time, right? Basically, journalism grad school, and we both we fulfill every requirement except I think one business course and the dissertation, right? And then we start.
I don't think it's a thesis. It's not as long as a dissertation.
Okay, thesis,
for a
whatever.
master's degree, not a PhD, but it's like a 25. In my mind, it's a 25-page paper.
Okay, so neither one of us did that, and then it's like, okay, we're getting bored. What are we going to do? We can't stay at Indiana University forever. As appealing as that was, you got to get to the real world. And then, as the story goes, as I recall it, we find out that the Louisville Courier-Journal has 2 sports copy editor openings.
They had 3, actually.
Was it 3?
Bob Curley got
that's
the other.
right, Bob Curley. You got a better memory as usual than me. And we both apply, thinking, well, if we're lucky, one of us will get it. I mean, we're not going to both get it. And we both got the jobs. So we both end up in Louisville.
It was remarkable.
It was amazing. And I still have memories because we both wanted to write, but in this job, you're copy editing. So you're reading other people's copy, you're writing headlines, you're correcting stuff. And I'll never forget.
Working every weekend.
And let's face it, kind of mailing it in because it's really not what we wanted to do. It was a means to an end. And I remember looking over at you at your terminal, and you've got a story that you're presumably editing. And all I can see is the cursor just kind of going from line to line, and you have this glazed look on your face, like you're not even reading the story you're supposed to be reading as an example, like, my God, we need to start writing. And then fortunately, that happened for both of us pretty quickly, you especially.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in New Albany, and you lived in Clarksville, and I had just gotten married right before I started, and my wife was going to take classes at IU East, so someday she needed the car. Like your dad gave you that big Buick, I think it was, and you'd drive over to New Albany and pick me up a couple days a week, and we'd drive to work.
That's true.
And then you'd bring me home at 1:15 or 1:30 in the morning, and I couldn't fall asleep till 3 or 4 in the morning. And we'd get up and do it again.
That's the way it was. So for you,
until the sewage backed up in your apartment, and you moved to Louisville.
Yeah, that's another whole story for another day. That was coming back from covering a high school game. And here's what's funny about you, because you did a lot of high school stuff, and I think always appreciated the high school stuff. And was it because there was more of a purity to it, you think? I mean, what? Because even, other great writers like you, I mean, I think of Dave Kindred, and late in his career, he basically starts following around a girls' basketball team, right? And makes a beat out of it. So in some ways, is that some of the most pleasurable stuff is in terms of its purity for you when you look back?
Yeah, without a question. I mean, part of it was growing up in Northwest Indiana, I had a great appreciation for Indiana high school basketball. And I started in Anderson, and that was back in the heyday of Indiana high school basketball, where Anderson was in that conference with Newcastle and Richmond and Muncie Central and Kokomo and Lafayette Jeff. And all those schools had gyms that were like 6,000, 7,000. Newcastle was 9,000. And they had huge crowds. It was a big deal. I mean, it meant a lot. And so I appreciated that. And plus, they all had a lot of players. I mean, I covered like Ray Talbert before he went to IU and played basketball. They were good players then. And then when I went to Indiana and I was in grad school, I remember I worked at the Herald Times.
That's right.
And I covered Edgewood High School for like a year. That's when I had an earring, and that was like in the 70s, and all these people were looking at me like I was some kind of weirdo.
Yes.
And it was a turquoise earring, remember?
I do.
And then then I became the City Hall reporter. And then when I came here, I became the high school writer at the Louisville Times, and I liked it because high school football was really good, but I also liked it because it was a way that I got to learn the town.
Yeah, that's it.
You kind of learn the neighborhoods, and the communities, and different things, and the thing that you'll recognize, there's always an appreciation for any coverage you get. They're happy to see you. They're happy to tell you their stories. They respond when you write something with kind words, and they remember who you are. And as you go through the business and get up in the higher levels, it changes from, appreciation to who you are to like, it's you again. Why don't you go away?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that. What do you?
Well, I mean, this year, I just give one example. It's another reason that factors in. I mean, like a lot of, I came into an era when, and you did too, when locker rooms were open, and you go in college especially, and go in and talk to players and get to know them. And over a course of a long season, they knew who you are, and they used to read the newspapers, and you develop a relationship. And once they're done, you might even be able to have a friendship with them or talk to them. And like I know Jeff Brom, the coach at Louisville, from when he played at Trinity High School. I know Dave Ragone texted me today. He was a quarterback at Louisville, who's now the offensive coordinator, I think, with the Rams. Because when he was here, I talked to him all the time. Now you get to talk to the players like one day a week for 10 minutes on a podium.
Yep.
No locker rooms are open. And, we used to go to games and sit on the court in basketball, and now you're in the 12th balcony in the third from the last row. It's like, I'd rather just stay home and watch it on TV. Thank you very much.
What do you remember about the first meaningful encounter you had with Bob Knight?
It's in that book. I just bought that book again. I'd thrown it away. It's Bob Hamill's first book on IU basketball. I knew it was on page 40, and it is on page 40. I had an interview with Knight finally, and I was scared to death. And it was before they were getting ready to play Purdue. Purdue was going to come to Indiana. And it was in that little room off the court, which they called the Cave, where they would watch video. And Knight had a pair of Converse shoes on. And I walked in, and I still had my winter coat on. It was the middle of winter. And I asked him, the first question was something about Purdue. And then I asked the second question, and that was about Purdue, too. And he kind of lifted his head up from tying his shoes, because he was ignoring me on the first question, and said, if you have so many blankety-blank questions about Purdue, why don't you get in your blankety-blank car and drive to blankety-blank West Lafayette and ask blankety-blank Fred Schaus?
The coach.
And I said, okay, Coach, thanks for your time. And I left.
It got a little better, right? Eventually.
It got a little better. My favorite Knight encounter ever was, and after I came back and was at the HT and I covered Edgewood High School, I was in there at night writing a story about the Edgewood Mustangs on an IBM Selectric typewriter, because that's what we had back then. Yep. You ran the paper through the scanner. And Bob Hamill, a good friend of mine who, is a mentor, and he was a sports editor of the Bloomington paper and was Knight's best friend. He and Knight used to go to high school basketball games together. They'd go out and, at Saturday night and have a piece of pie and ice cream together. And so Knight walks in to pick up Hamill, and I'm sitting there in the room, like with my back to him, and I can sense this large presence behind me. And he's reading my story over my shoulder, and he reaches down and pulls the paper out of the typewriter and wads it up in a paper ball, and he goes, "That might have been the biggest piece of crap I've ever read." Oh, God. And he throws the paper away.
Throws the paper away.
And and then he taps me on the back and goes, "Just kidding, kid."
Just kidding.
And I had to start over my story.
What are you supposed to do?
I was on deadline.
Yeah, that's crazy. Who was, you talk about mentors, even if it's guys that you didn't know well or spent time with, who are the Giants for you? Did it start with Kindred? Because he was also in that market for so long. Who comes to mind for you?
Kindred for sure. I never heard of him. We grew up in the same area with the guys in the Chicago papers were the ones that we read, or the Gary Post Tribune. John Walsh, Marty Shabazz, Al Hamnick, those guys. But Kindred, had a guy on my dorm floor who was from Louisville, and he would bring the Courier-Journal sports section whenever he went home for the weekend, and I would start reading it. And then they sold it at the Union, and I'd start buying it. And Kindred was fantastic, and so I read him. David Israel was another one. Obviously Curry Kirkpatrick, because I love college basketball when he was in his heyday writing for SI, was phenomenal. I'd read him all the time, and I grew up reading the sporting news. All those guys that read the sporting news, whether it was Furman Bisher or Joe Falls.
Got a good overview.
Yeah, all those different guys. They had all those guys write in the sporting news and I saved my sporting news and I'd read them. In fact, that's the first time I ever got published, and I was like, I remember I was running around the house as like a 14 or 15-year-old. That I sent a letter. They had a story, and I wrote something to the sporting news suggesting something or questioning something, and they printed my letter in the sporting news, and I was like, oh my gosh. And another time was remember Harry Shearer?
I do.
He wrote for the Chicago Today. It was like he called it the Quidnook.
Yes.
That was his column. And he would have like these bizarre questions, and if you'd answered them, you got 2 free tickets to a Bulls game. Because the Bulls they might draw 8,000 back then. It was right after they started, and I answered them once, and we got 2 free tickets, and my dad took me to a Bulls game. And seeing my name in the paper, that was like, yeah, I want to do that. But you probably remember, I mean, you were way ahead of me. You started as a freshman at the Daily Student. I didn't even start till the second semester of my junior year. I had no experience. I was afraid. I really was. I was afraid to go in there and start. I didn't have any self-confidence. And the first story they asked me to do was on the renting of musical instruments at the School of Music. And I remember, okay, I guess I can do that. And I said, well, who do I call? And somebody told me who to call. And I went to the School of Music, and I was so intimidated that I walked around the building twice before I finally had the courage to go in and talk to the person to ask. And I remember I wrote the story, and thankfully the person who edited it was kind. They could have probably destroyed me and said, this is horrible. And I probably would have quit and not even become a sports writer, but they were good. And then the big break happened. It was that summer I stayed in Bloomington all summer, went to summer school, and it was like a 1 or 2 man sports staff. I did a lot of stuff. And then you were the sports editor my senior year, and I covered football somehow with Bruce Newman. And Bruce Newman, was the star. He interned at the Boston Globe and Sports Illustrated, and he went straight from IU to Sports Illustrated. And he knew that IU football at the time was a joke, and he didn't want to go to any IU football games on the road. So I got to go to all the games, and I was thrilled. He looked down on it, and that's what got me going. I got a lot of experience my last year, and then I found a job on the job board at the Anderson Bulletin for $130 a week.
$130 a week.
Chapel.
There you go. See?
I cleared 93. My rent was $135. Did you ever come up there and visit me in that house I lived in?
No, I think you were mad at me because I don't think I did. And I think you were bitter. One of the many times you were bitter with that's for sure. By the way,
I lived in a house. I didn't have a bed. I had a fold-out couch. I didn't have air conditioning. I had a fan. And I didn't really have the bathroom was made out of a closet, and I had to bend over to I couldn't stand up in the bathroom. I had to bend over to get in. That's where I lived for a year and a half. I don't think I vacuumed in there the whole time I lived there.
See?
I was a vacuum cleaner. It was bad.
Those are the salad days. I'm going to read you a text.
But what I did was I went to Ball State. And played pickup basketball every day.
I remember
that.
In
my basketball days where I played every day.
Not only were you a great player, I liked playing with you because you were a great passer, and I was not a very good passer. So I liked accepting.
I enjoyed passing the ball.
Yeah, you were very good at it.
And when that was this is another. In the summer of '76, I was making so little money, but I worked at the Anderson Bulletin. A friend of mine worked at the McDonald's that was in downtown Anderson, and they gave out these scratch-off cards that you'd get a free Big Mac or a free Quarter Pounder, and he gave me 150 of them. And so I ate free McDonald's food for the entire summer from these McDonald's scratch-off cards just to save money. That's true.
These are the best stories. I got this text after the first segment in which I mentioned, or second segment, that you were going to be on. I think you'll be able to figure out who sent it. One half of a fine young journalist sitting next to Sid at a Gophers football game put you, Dan, where you are today. I don't care what the first choice says. All these decades later, I was nearby and saw the horror on his face as Sid ranted. This, of course, is from Patrick Royce. Yes. Can you confirm or deny his theory?
I was horrified sitting next to him. Yeah, he talked the whole time, but I had already made my decision by the time I went to the game that I was leaving. Because that was Lorenzo. I remember it was Lorenzo White in Michigan State. Because that's all. The main reason that didn't work was I did a terrible job of planning. I came up there, and I had a room at the Hyatt Regency on a Friday night, and I stayed there using points or something for free. And I stayed for 2 nights. And on Sunday morning, I was supposed to drive out to the airport, and my plane ticket was supposed to be in some locker. Didn't you guys have some system where they left the plane tickets in lockers?
That's true. Yeah, like the travel agency, you could pick up your ticket at the airport.
It was weird. I had just gotten up there on Friday. Like on Sunday morning, I was going to fly to D.C. and cover a Vikings-Redskins game. And I don't even know if I had a computer, how I was going to do it or anything. And then I thought about it and was like, yeah, I'm going to go to this game and I'm going to fly home on Monday. I don't even know where I'm going to. I didn't have a place to stay. I mean, my wife had bought a house, but we couldn't move in yet.
Right.
And I didn't set up any kind of temporary housing. And I was like freaking out in my mind, like, what am I going to do? And so at that point, it was like, I'm going back to Louisville. That's what I'm doing. And I talked to you.
Yeah.
You helped me talk my way through it. And my next door neighbor in New Albany was eager for me to come home because we were good friends. And I've told you the story before. He flew up to Louisville and to Minneapolis, and he could tell I was in distress, and we drove home together.
Drove back together. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, for the record, I did try to at first convince you to reconsider.
You did.
I could tell
it was
pretty
hopeless.
quickly that it was probably hopeless. So I've said this, this is a good time to say it again. For listeners who despise my appearance all these years in the radio and the newspaper, this is the guy you can be mad at.
Including my father for a short amount of time.
That's exactly
a long
right.
amount of time, actually.
On the other hand, if you're pleased with listening to me or reading me, this is a guy you have to thank. Because, this is sort of the classic, everything changes. Who knows where any of us end up if you decide to hang in, or because I have no doubt you'd have been great here. You'd been fine here over a period of time. But, everybody's got to do what they got to do. And it worked out fine for you. I think it's fair to say you had a niche and you developed it.
My favorite story is that after I got back, I got a package in the mail like within a week with 2 pair of like long underwear and said, if this is the reason you didn't stay in Minneapolis, you can go back now.
Even better.
52-23 was the score of that Michigan State-Minnesota game.
52-23?
The Spartans edged the Gophers on November 1st, 1986.
Gotcha. 52-23.
Yeah, I remember that I didn't really care for the Metrodome football press box. But, yeah, Royce was egging me on, though, I think.
No.
You really want to work with this guy?
Not Patrick. That's hard to believe.
I felt bad because I knew Patrick from covering, like, some baseball. I had covered some World Series and some All-Star games, and I knew him, and I was looking forward to working with him. I loved the town, and, it turned out great. I think I could have had a good career in Minneapolis, too, but this really did fit me better because I really love college basketball.
You do.
It's been a great place to be. I think I would have enjoyed living there because I love baseball.
Yeah.
The NFL, not so much. Sid was, and after that, anytime I saw him for 20 years, he never knew my name. He just called me, "Hey, Louisville, you screwed up. Hey, Louisville." He always called me Louisville.
Well, isn't that what Shaq used to call you too, though, in a much nicer way?
Yeah.
Shaq used to call you that, right? He'd run into him, and he identified you with where you originated from, which is kind of cool. Last item for today. So are you going to do some, are you going to dabble with some Substack stuff where you don't have to worry about being on call if there's a coaching change, but you can still...
I mean, we can talk about it briefly now, but I want to talk about you later. I mean, what do you think?
I think you're probably going to get bored enough where you should do it. But on the other hand, I don't think you have to. I think you feel that out. You see how much you miss some expression out there, and maybe you won't. Maybe you'll say...
I've already had 2 different people today who've texted me who have college basketball websites ask me about writing for them. So
Boom.
I'm sure if I want to do stuff, I will. I don't know how much time I want to do it.
Yeah.
And it also depends on, I'm not going to do it for free.
Right.
But there's other stuff I want to do. I just got a new electric bike that I'm learning how to ride. And you do have to learn how to ride because they're different than a regular bike.
Right.
I've joined a health club. I definitely want to go to spring training as much as I love baseball. I love the White Sox. I do watch almost every game and follow the minor leagues closely, and I want to go to spring training. It's fun. I did it once.
Yes.
Louisville played in the NCAA tournament in Tucson, and I would go out to the park early in the morning and watch the, guys who are in the lower minor leagues take batting practice. That's how much of a baseball guy I am.
You are,
and I, like I said earlier, I don't want to be in a situation where it's like, this happened. Can you write some 500 words?
I get it.
Like, no, I don't want to.
No, that part, that part, I totally understand. All right, we're up against the clock here. All right. Congratulations, man. You know what I think of you.
Thank you.
You've been the best friend I've ever had.
I couldn't have done it without you. You were very instrumental in the early parts of my career of encouraging me and convincing me I could do things. You were my first sports editor and gave me assignments, and you babysat me through a lot of my crises in my life.
Yeah, that works both ways.
You're a world-class friend, and I appreciate you more than I can say.
Me too. I appreciate you, Ricky, and again, I just think when the newspaper business was flourishing, you're the kind of individual who kept it working. I mean, in all seriousness, really good agile writer, great reporter, like to ask questions, and that's really the machinery that makes this thing work. If you have people who will do some of both, and that's what you did really well. You should be very proud of your run, and thanks again. And by the way, this only means we'll probably be calling you more because I'll feel less guilty because you won't have the excuse of, well, I got to write something. Okay.
I hope that you do. I enjoy talking to you, and then I really like talking to Justin.
Yeah, well, everybody does. Thanks, man. I'll be in touch.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ricky.
Have a good weekend. Go White Sox.
Congratulations. Bye. Rick Bozich, 50 years in the sports writing business, man. That should not be taken lightly.
It's time to make sports betting in Minnesota legal. It's a win-win-win. A win for consumers, a win for youth sports, a win for charities. Consumers would have more protection against offshore unregulated websites. Revenue would stay in Minnesota and be invested in youth sports and provide a tax cut for charities. Legalizing sports betting has bipartisan support as well as support from Minnesota's tribes and horse tracks. Let your legislators know the time for waiting is over and join 39 other states in protecting consumers, ensuring age verification, and benefiting Minnesota. Visit sportsbettingalliance.org to learn more. Prepared and paid for by the Sports Betting Alliance.
Hey runners! You know running can be tough, but shopping for gear shouldn't be. That's why you should make your shopping easy with Running Warehouse. They've got all the best brands, styles, and colors all in one place. No matter where you're heading or how many miles you're about to cover, you know they've got the perfect gear waiting for you. And if you're not sure what you need, their in-house experts are there to help. So if you're looking to upgrade your running game, you should definitely check out Running Warehouse. With free shipping and free returns, you can shop with confidence. Visit runningwarehouse.com today.
Okay, have you heard about this? Last year, Degree changed the formula for their Cool Rush deodorant. Their fans rebelled and wanted the old scent back. And Degree listened. That doesn't happen often.
They admitted that they effed up and are bringing the original Cool Rush scent back. And it's exactly how you remember it. Cool, crisp, and fresh. There's a reason it's the #1 men's antiperspirant. And it's back in Walmart, Target, and other stores for under $4.
So try it and see what the fuss is about. Head to your local stores to try the OG Cool Rush for yourself.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.